Hello everyone, it is Glenn Bruce here from Show Your Home Studio and In-House Magic Productions. I am here because I have a long overdue tutorial that I was supposed to put up here a few months ago. And that's basically how to build your own CD DVD duplicator. I've been trying to get this to you guys for a while though, but I've been kind of stuck with building and writing and scoring for a film that I'm actually writing directly for that will be coming out in 2015. So let's get right to it and get the part list. We need an ATX computer case with 5 1/4 external bays, a CD DVD duplicator controller card. You can get this from directron.com for about $75. And we need a power supply from any computer store, 500 watts or better. And you need, for this project, I'm using 8 DVD CD writers, some wire cutters, a Phillips screwdriver, and some electrical tape. Not to mention, this is optional. You can either use a solder pen or some solder, but it's not necessary. But if you are very good with solder, I will explain to you in a tutorial what to do with it if you want to use it. So let's get right to it. Okay guys, we're going to get started now. I'm going to assume that you followed the instructions and you ordered all your parts and everything came in the mail, or you went out and actually bought the stuff from your local computer store. Nonetheless, we're going to get started. I'm going to break down briefly with the parts that the main parts that we really need to have. Okay, this is the box that comes from directron.com, and this is the main duplicator controller card. We're going to open that up in a minute so you can see what that looks like. This is your power supply. Roughly, I usually get like a 600, 700 watt power supply. The rule of thumb I usually use is basically how many drives you want to put in, multiply that by 100, and that's what dictate how good your power supply would be. For instance, if I'm going to be copying to 7 drives, get a 700 watt power supply, and vice versa. If you're doing three drives, 300 watt or whatever, just keep that in mind. That's a good rule of thumb. But in all honesty, any power supply 500 watts or above should do you justice. Okay, now we also have, of course, the drives. You can get the drives. I got mine from Micro Center. You can either go to a Micro Center store if it's near you, or microcenter.com. They're the cheapest. Now you can probably get drives now, DVD drives, for probably as low as $15 a piece. So that's a really good deal. Extra optional things, which is always good to have, are these wire connectors to give you dual power supply. And the reason why is that because you never know, some power supplies don't come with enough wire to connect everything. So this is always good to have. It puts you in the mind of like if you were connecting a wide cable, a wide audio cable to split 2 signals. It's the same thing here, but in this case, we're splitting current, but the same rate of current to help out. Now, I have my set of tools here. Some of them I've described in the description, and some that I think that are really optional. Now, of course, we're going to use the scissors to cut probably 2-3 wires. We're going to tie things down with electrical tape. We definitely need electrical tape no matter what. If we don't use anything else, we want to have electrical tape. Okay, you got your general Phillips screwdriver that's going to tie down the power supply or whatever. Wire cutters. Instead, this is optional in case you're not really good with scissors. If you really want to make a good solid connection, solder is always a good option though, but it's not necessary, but it's always good to have though. If you're good with soldering, I can also show you how to heat indirectly to tie the wire in, but it's not necessary. If you're not good with soldering, you don't really need to do soldering. Also, I have wire caps here, and that's good to help with insulation, whatever. Once you braid the wires that I'm going to show you, you can take the cap and tie it on, whatever, and it'll lock in. This is just an extra solder pen. Now, moving to the case. When you pick a case, always remember, you must pick a case that has 5 1/4 external bays. That shows up on the specification list. If you're looking online, it says how many bays you need or what kind of bays they're external. Make sure there are plenty of 5.25 inch external bays, because that is the actual size of what the CD drives are going to fit into. Now, if you get a case that has, depending on the size you want, in this instance, we're going to make a 1 master to 7 target duplicator. Now, there are cases if you don't need something this big, you can always get a case that's one master to 3 targets or 1 master to 5 targets, whatever you need to be. But believe it or not, it's more cost effective, in my opinion, to get something like a 1 to 7, you can make whatever. Also, when you're picking your case, no matter what size of case you want to make, always reserve 2 spots, no matter what, that you know that's going to definitely be your master drive and a spot for your controller. Now, also keep in mind that when you get cases and everything, the cases come with a manual, if you buy them new at least. And the manual will tell you how to break it down cosmetically, how to take off a panel, how to install things, because now, about 10 years ago, a little under 10 years ago, you used to have a big wad of Phillips screws that you would actually drill into the drive to hold them in. Now, these game cases are coming with specific locks and specific sliding locks, so you have to go through that. It's a very quick install. So we're going to get right to breaking down the case, and then we'll get started and put this in. This should be very fun and very quick to do. Now, before we go on, one more thing. I'm going to get a disclaimer right now. Do not, I repeat, do not connect any power lines unless I tell you to do so. Show Your Home Studio, myself, James St. John, Glenn Bruce, everybody on our staff, we're not responsible if you decide you want to, be Dr. Frankenstein, blow yourself up. Now, I'm telling you guys right now, because I got love for all of y'all and respect for all of y'all, I will not steer you wrong, but please listen to the instructions to the letter. It's not difficult. Just don't do anything stupid and try to shortcut anything. By saying that, we can go on. Now, I'm just going to break down the case, and then we're going to crack open the boxes, and then we're going to go see what's going on, okay? Okay, guys, we're looking at the rear of the case or whatever. Every case, of course, is unique, whatever, but the standard thing about most of the cases of nowadays is that there are 4 screws that you can actually twist out with your hand. Don't need no special tool for them. And they're located usually on these corners that I'm pointing and indicating. Okay, almost every case that you buy has these 4 screws, whatever. But basically, like I said, you can actually look at the screw here and you can basically twist them out. Okay, almost every case had these 4 screws. They look something like this, whatever. And I'm gonna put that to the side. And in most cases, you only have to take off one side. We want to take off the left side because that will give us the most access to what we're doing inside, whatever. So we can go ahead and take that off. And that's going to be open. You can put that to the side. And as you can see now that we see everything's exposed, let me set that down. Twist this here. You see everything's exposed, okay? You see where the case is going to be. And like I said earlier, a lot of the cases have these locks where you can actually just lock down your drives. Because most people that know older computers, they remember that these little holes, they are the same dimension of the screw, but you actually would have to take one screw and put them in each one of the holes to lock in your drives, whatever you put in. When they used to upgrade computers, like I said, a little under 10 years ago, believe it or not, wasn't that long ago. But now most game cases either have a slam down and you lock in your feature like that. There are some that have big toggle switches that look like electrical breaker switches though. But nonetheless, this is how we're going to set everything up in here. In this case particularly, these locks can lock it down and hold the drives into place. Now, if you look at the rest of the case, of course, we're not going to put in the motherboard. That's not necessary because what controls the duplicator is going to be the controller card. We're going to put that in up top here. Now, most cases also, in this particular case, the power supply is going to be mounted on the bottom, but there are some cases that mount to the top. Now, it doesn't matter if they're mounted to the bottom or the top, it's not going to get in the way of everything. So let's start opening up the packages and start putting this baby together. Okay guys, now we're about to crack open the first box, which is going to be our controller box. Inside is the actual DVD duplicated controller card that you will be functioning. It makes your unit a standalone unit. Now this comes from Directron, and usually when you order this controller, it doesn't take that long. It usually comes like maybe 2 days, 3 days, three days at the most, whatever. So it comes in a small box like this. So when you see it in your delivery, whatever your delivery mail slot or your door, whatever, it's about this size, fairly light, probably like about maybe not even 3 pounds, whatever. So we're going to open this so I can show you what's inside with the spec. Okay, upon opening it, you see it comes with your invoice. Comes with your invoice, and you can see how they packed it with the packing peanuts. This is actually the size of the box. You can see the size of my hand. I have an average size hand, and you can see the actual size of the box. Okay, also as you can see in this case, I have the black Atom SATA controller series CD DVD duplicator. It's a 1-to-7 target. Now they come in different type of denominations. You can get, like I said, a 1-to-3 target, a 1-to-9 target. There's also a 1-to-11 target, and I believe there's a 1-to-15 target, depending on the size and the need of your machine, like I said. But well, for me, the 1-to-7 has been the most profitable because it's big enough to do the small jobs as well as the large jobs, and it's not as heavy to walk around portable, whatever. So, okay, this is the card. Let's crack it open. Okay, now once you've taken out the controller card from the box, this is what it basically looks like. Simple control, one hand function control, and it comes with the actual unit. And as you can see, it has all the connectors you're going to connect your drives with. It comes with the manual, so it will show you what to do and how to set it up, which is very simple. And it also comes with the extra wiring, so you don't have to worry about buying the wiring. It has the wiring to hook up all your drives. Now, this is also, you know, a shock to me as well, because most of the time when I buy these things, the connectors are usually mounted to the back of the unit, but for some reason they have them set to the top here, which usually is not a problem, because I like to set my, when I set up these units, I like to set my master drive over top of the drive here, and it should just leave just enough room just for the wire to be exposed to hang down the way to connect to the other drives. But I do prefer a rear connection though, but that's still not going to be a problem. Now, at a first glance, I'm going to tell you what's going on here with the color coding. These two basically are going to be where your master drive is going to be connected to. Also, with these units, they also give you an option to connect a hard drive, which I'll explain to you later, but the hard drive is not necessary at all, so you don't have to spend extra money on a hard drive. What a hard drive does is, when you start getting more advanced in your duplications and everything, you can actually save your images on there, and if you don't have the master disk, the duplications can actually be copied from an image that you saved in your hard drive. And as we all know, you can save a lot more things with your hard drive instead of looking around a lot of master CDs and everything. All your images can stay on the hard drive. All you have to do is pull up the hard drive image and just send out the job down to the duplicator. But like I said, the manual will explain that a little bit more in depth than I have, though. But it's not necessary to have a hard drive. But this is what it looks like now. So let's start mounting everything to get everything together, and then that should be the fun part, real quick. Okay, now we're about to slide in the drives into each one of the slots and lock them down, whatever. But before we get into that, I'm going to briefly describe to you the basic connection of a CD-ROM drive, or in this case DVD-ROM drive, or whatever you're burning, whatever. Okay, it's real simple. There's only two sides to it. The side here on the right hand side, that is your data cable side. That's a small side, it has an E-hook on the side of it, and you can't miss it, whatever. That's where you're going to plug your data cables. I will definitely demonstrate where that goes. This side here on the left hand side, this is actually your power connection, and this is where your power lines are going to go when you connect these drives into this unit. And that's pretty simple. It's all plug and play. So let's go right ahead, and we're going to mount the drives in as so, and then we're going to connect the controller card, and then we do the wiring. All right, now we're going to start putting in our target drives at the bottom and work our way from the bottom on up to the top, whatever. Okay, we take our target drive like so, whatever, and we're going to go in rear end first, and we're going to put them in. Now, every case has a set of grooves that they automatically can slide into. Let me try to pan around here. As you can see, they have grooves here, so you definitely know you can't miss your target, whatever. So you put them in along the groove, and basically gently push it in, and you're going to be able to see the screw holes. When you see the hole line up with the hole on the outside of the case, then you know that it's a nice flush input. And this, however your manual is inside of your case, however you lock in your drives, whatever your manual of your case describes, that's how you do it. In this case, You line up the holes with the case, with the hole in the lock, and just simply lock it. That's it. And it's snug. Now we're going to do this for the rest of the drives. Now, like I said, I just put these in right, and what I described earlier, no matter what, always reserve the 2 spots for the controller card is going to go here, and then your master. Like I said earlier, I kind of feel a little bit funky about this particular controller card because I'm used to the connectors to be on the rear of the unit though, but I think there's going to be enough room to squeeze this in. So, but what I'm going to do just to make sure, I think it'd probably be more logical to connect all the wires before I put this in and then slide in the master drive. So I think I'm going to do that right now. Okay, after inspecting the wires that come with the kit, I observed that one end is angled, which is cool, which is what I would expect. The other end is straight. So when we apply this wire to the controller card, we're going to plug in the angled end into the controller card, and the straight end is going to go into the drives. Now I'm going to put all of the angled connectors in first. And I want you to understand something when I show you the controller card. The good thing about the controller card is there's no certain configuration you have to put it in. They are color coded, but the color code doesn't mean anything. This one is going to be the master, and the rest is going to be the writers. I'm sorry, they're going to be the writers, and one is going to be the reader. Okay, now I'm about to connect the cables to the actual controller. Now you see you got different colors here. It's not a big thing to understand. Just so you know that the only one wire that you're going to connect is going to go to your master reader. Everything else here are being connected to the burners or the writers, okay? And like I said earlier in the video, this one is basically if you want to connect the hard drive to your controller card, which later on if you get more advanced with your burners and everything, it's a really cool feature to have everything backed up on your hard drive that gives you faster access to any projects you work on. If you have clients that are repeat clients, instead of looking for their master CD, if you have it at your place, or relying on your client's master CD, because as we know, some clients can get real clumsy, bring you a scratch master CD. If you save the image onto your hard drive, if you choose to install one, that would be a lot more cooler. But in this tutorial, we're not worrying about the hard drive right now, but the manual, like I said, it comes with explaining to you how to connect the hard drive and also how to format the hard drive for those type of jobs. But right now, we're going to, like I said, we're going to take the angle in. As you see, it has a little E hook on the side, on the inside, which all SATA cables have. And just plug them in. We're going to take them simply. They snap right in, not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and do this for each one. And like I said, it does not matter which wire you put where. You just put them in. As you hear, they click right in, right nice and snug. It doesn't even matter which ones you use. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in. Then we're going to install it into the next one. Okay guys, now that I'm done hooking all the wires up, it should look like this when you're done. So let them dangle, whatever. All of the wires, all of the SATA cables have been placed and snapped and locked into each of the sockets that I showed you earlier. Now the only thing that's not connected, once again like I showed you, is the orange tab right here, which is optional if you want to connect your hard drive to it. And this tab right here next to it, let me put this down so you can point to it. This tab here is going to be your power connector, which that's going to be one of our final steps that we're going to connect the power to, whatever. But that's basically it. So your controller is ready. So all you have to do is mount the controller inside your case the same way that we mounted in the CD drives. Also, to briefly recap the connection strategy to the back of your CD-ROM drives, DVD-ROM drives, Blu-ray drives, whatever you're using in your duplicator. I told you early in the video what side is designated for what cable. This connector, once again, is going to be for the power, and this connector is going to be your data cable. So the object is to take the wires that we already put into our controller card, and we're going to connect them to this side to all of the drives. So basically, let me have a spare wire here to show you. The object here is to take the wire, the straight end, and place it into this side, and it snaps in. And that's what we're going to do for each drive. So I'm going to mount the controller into the case, and then we're going to take it from there. So we take our case, whatever, stick our wire through the open slot. Doesn't have to be pretty and perfect. Just make sure they stick through. In the same way that you guided your CD-ROMs in, you do the same way to apply to the controller card. Slides in the same way. Find the screw holes. You can see them through the holes. Lock it in. Now that we've done that, we can finally apply our master reader. Once again, rear end first. Slide it into your grooves. Line up the screw holes. Voila, snapped in. So now we have everything in as far as the drives are concerned. I'm gonna try to move over here so you can see how it would look. As you can see, everything is in, everything is flushed. It's looking pretty good. Everything is locked in. You can move them and shake them, and everything is there, so it'll be nice and in a rugged fit. Now the first things first, you remember I told you about the brief color code strategy. If you remember where I told you which one will be your master reader cable, which would be the only the one cord that's in the one color code is in the white cable. You take that one and you take the end of that, and simply you're going to plug it into your top drive. Once again, you can configure your drive any way how you want them, as far as how you want. If you want your master on top, if you want them sitting on the top of your duplicators, but that's the main one you want to plug in first. You plug that in first, and then everything else you go right ahead and plug into the back of the rest of your drives. It doesn't matter what order, whatever it is, because the controller is smart. It will definitely decipher which burner is what when you start using your unit. But go ahead now and plug the rest of the wires into the rear of the rest of your drives. Okay, now as you see, I have connected all of the data cables to all of the drives. Now the good thing about SATA cables, whatever, you can move them around freely. They are very flexible as far as the tension is concerned, whatever. So if you want to match them down, look more uniformed, or you want to push them against something, that's fine too. But as long as they're all connected and you hear them click in when you put them in, then they're ready to go. This looks like a good braid to me right now. Also, once again, remember, the only cable that you're really concerned about is your master reader. Make sure that this one connects to where you're going to be copying from, your master reader. Other than that, everything else is no particular order. You can just take them and plug them in and put them into the connectors on the burner drives. Okay, now we're about to go ahead. Only thing left to do now is to install efficient power to everything, and then we're almost done. Okay guys, now I'm going to crack the power supply. This power supply I got is 650 watts, which is strong enough to do what I'm doing here, whatever. It's a general power supply, and you know I didn't even pay this much. This is a misprint because Micro Center actually have power supplies of this caliber for only starting at $20, so that was still a good bargain. And like I said, if you want to follow the rule of thumb as multiply the amount of drive times 100, you want to come close to that. In this case, we're working with 7 target drives, so I would prefer to have a 700 watt or above though. But like I said, 500 watts or above is good. And just keep in mind though, in any duplicator, I don't care if you buy it retail or if you build it yourself, whatever, the wear and tear on duplicators are always either the power supply or the power switch. And in this case, I'm going to build the duplicator without having to use a power switch, and I'll explain that why to you, whatever. But we're going to crack this open and mount this in and get it installed. Okay, now we're going to open the power supply, and inside the box we're going to find several items. The actual AC power cord, which I must stress that this is probably the last thing that we're going to touch when we finish fully completely building the duplicator. Okay, you have your twisty ties and you have mounting screws, and the mounting screws is what hold the power supply to the actual case. So I'm going to show you how to align that up, make sure everything is congruent, and we're going to screw these into the back of the power supply. The power supply, as you can see, most power supplies when you buy them new, they come very well packed, bubble wrap and things like that. Let me move the warranty card out the way. And of course, we have all our connectors here, and we're not going to use all of them, but we're going to try to use as many as we can before we start using the wire electric cables. Action. Okay, now that we've unpacked the power supply, I want you to observe it. I want you to pay attention, and you notice that you have all your connectors and cords. Depending on how sophisticated your case is, like in my situation, I'm putting extra fans and stuff in it, whatever, just for decoration more than for extra ventilation. You may or may not need all of these cords connected, okay? The main ones that you're worrying about are all of the SATA power cables, and I'm going to show you what they look like. They're these. These are the cables that you will be plugging into the back of each one of your drives and actual controller card. And this plug here is actually going to be your power cable. Now, this is the quick cable that we're going to pay the most attention to. This is the one you want to use your brain on, because I'm going to show you how to short it to make it a switch, as opposed to having the switch on the front of the units, because usually a lot of the retail units, when you get the switches on front of a retail duplicator, they either burn out fast or someone in your studio may actually bump into it. So I really like putting just one switch, which will be the power supply switch. This is the only switch you're going to be worrying about, and it will always be in the rear of your machine. And it's a direct switch. It's designed for heat, and it's designed to last. That's why I like to make them this way, as opposed to the way how the retail makers make theirs. Also, I want you to observe the power supply itself. This is where the plug is going to go in. This is obviously your switch. And I want you to understand that you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 screw mounts. This is how you're going to attach the power supply and mount it inside of the case. And the whole trick to this is making sure that these holes match up to the holes that's in the back of the case once we slide this in there, because if it doesn't match, then all you have to do is simply turn it upside down, and then it will even match that way. But the object here is to make sure that the holes match into the back of the case, which we're going to do. Now we're going to slide this in to the case, and this works also if you have an upper mounting socket for your power supply. In this case, in most cases, the power supply will go into the lower part. But this is how we're going to do it. We're going to put it in. Keep in mind, make sure the screws match the back of the case. And then sometimes, in most cases, usually, when you put this power supply into the back there are like, sometimes, some cases have guiding ramps, whatever, so you know exactly where you're putting it in, so it just slide right in that way. So we're gonna take this and then simply sit it right there, okay? And also just to remind you, to show you again how it's very important that the holes, that they match up with the holes, like I said, from the power supply, so it'll be congruent. So basically, once you put your power supply in, you'll see that the holes will match up with the power supply. At this point, the 4 screws that came in the plastic bag, this is what you're going to just simply, with your Phillips screwdriver, you're going to screw 1 screw into each hole. Now sometimes you may not even need all 3. Sometimes, so depending on your case, a case may come with only 3 holes, but no more than 4. So just keep in mind, as long as the holes are congruent, you take your Phillips screwdriver and mount this in. This is very important because it keeps the power conditioning very stable. Okay, now that we had a power supply nice and snug and locked in, we get that mounted inside the case. Now the next step is to simply take our SATA power lines and put them to the rear of each one of the devices. It doesn't matter which order, how you untangle them, whatever, they all going to match and they all fit the same way and they all have the same lock. So all you do is line up your end of your SATA power cable. These, the thin ones with the E hook on the back, on the side of it. Those are the ones that go to the rear of each of the devices. And it's pretty simple. Just plug and play, lock them in. Now also, like I said to you before, if for some reason that in most cases your power supply alone will not have enough cables to fit all of the devices. We're putting in 9 devices here. So that's where the wide cables come in, and I asked you to buy a few of them just to have, you know, just in case, because some power supplies don't come with a lot of SATA plugs, whatever. But we can accommodate those by just applying the wide cable. So when we come across that bridge, I'll show you exactly what to do and where to plug them up. But for right now, let's take this apart, and we're going to start plugging them in to the back of the devices. Okay, at this point we see that we've taken the wires and look, a bunch of spaghetti right here, but don't worry about it. At this point, we are only concerned and we're only seeking the SATA cables. As you can see, the SATA power cables are they're flat and they have the little E curve to the side, which is the actual lock. Anything that's not this, you can basically take to the side. I can explain what some of these wires are to you, but they're not relevant to our duplicator. So we can kind of start putting to the side, and we only are interested in the SATA cables. These are the ones I want you to start plugging into the back of your devices. Now I've noticed that this power supply only came with 6 connectors. So I did connect all available 6 connectors to the devices in the back, but I'm lacking 3. My upper 3 devices doesn't have any connectors, which is why I asked you guys, just for good measure, to go out and buy these coax wire adapters. So basically what's going to happen is, in this adapter, you have all of your extra SATA adapters that you're going to plug into the other devices that's missing. The only difference is here is that we're going to be pulling power from an IDE connection. So I'm going to show you on the other wire that you pulled apart, we're going to find an IDE cord, and then we'll connect those accordingly to the other 3 devices. Now we can go back to our spaghetti of wires from our power supply, and we're looking for the IDE connector. Any of them will do, but this is what you're looking for. This is an IDE power connector. Regulated 12 volts, a positive and a negative in the ground wire. As you can see, it's flat, but it's a little bit more chunkier than the SATA connectors, and it has the 4 sockets. We're going to take this socket. It could be any one of them. It doesn't have to be a specific one or whatever. Just try to get one that will make sure that it will reach to the other devices. You take this, and then you're going to connect your Y cable to that. Now remember, we're going to take one end, which is the IDE power connector. This is a spare wire from your power supply. And then we're going to take the Y cable that you have in your bag, take this end, which is the male end, plug it into the female receptacle as so. That's it. Now we have spare SATA connectors to plug into the back of our devices. So we're going to take this and here and plug it into the devices that were formerly not available because we ran out of SATA connectors from the initial power supply. Also at this point, if you have extra devices that you could also use another Y cable, go right ahead and use it. You can put it on the same chain. Just remember, connect it to an IDE power source. You take this and connect it to another adapter, it's similar to the one we just put in, and connect it to your last device. In this case, I need one more device connected, so I will connect another adapter and put it to the last device. In this case, I have one more device to put in, and I'm using my IDE connector, and I have a single adapter. They do come in singles. They don't have to necessarily be Y, but this is all I need is one more. Same principle. Connect the IDE male to female, connect them in like so, and then I'm going to be attaching my final SATA power to my final device. All right, now this is looking great now. Now that you have everything plugged in, all the power, all the data cables are plugged in, I want you to go back behind yourself, check them, make sure everything is in snug, nothing is loose, slipping around. Just give them like a little push. Go to each device. Just make sure, just a little push to make sure that everything is in there. And once you're satisfied that everything is plugged in and secure, you are definitely 98.6% done. Now, the only thing left to do now is to rig your power supply, and we can close this baby up and start burning. Okay, now that you have everything connected, whatever, now we're going to go for the main power wire, which is this one. Now, in normal conditions, this wire is connected directly to the motherboard. Okay, it usually comes with either 20 pins or 24 pins. It doesn't make a difference. The good thing about these power supplies and any power supply in a computer is that they all are standard. They all have to be standard. I don't care what name, I don't care what brand the power supply is, I don't care what company it comes from, whatever. They all have standard color-coded power lines. Now, what we're going to do is basically we're going to trick the power supply into thinking that we can cut it on strictly from the back of the power supply, which I believe is much more safer than having a regular switch, because switches, they tend to burn out, especially when you're using a lot of power like this. They tend to burn out. So what we're going to do is take your standard and average power supply that belongs into a regular computer, and we're going to trick it into being able to work as a functional switch itself. Now, the reason why I prefer to do it this way also is because, like I said, switches and these type of apparatuses, they tend to burn out. They tend to burn out real fast. And then when you send it back for repairs, the company always try to give you some lame excuse, so something's going on, blah, 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 when 9 times out of 10, it's simply a switch. It's an easy repair, but you easily can pay a lot of money for that repair. Also, even if you were to get what they call a lab power supply, basically a power supply that you can actually turn off and on in a lab or any type of situation, whatever, they tend to run they run very expensive. Like some places I've even seen a power supply, a lab power supply, for going for almost over $100 or more. Some even cost up to $400. But we're going to convert this power supply into what you want to call, say, a lab power supply. So what I want you to do now is to find this part of the power supply. You can't miss it. It's the largest wire, and it has anywhere between 20 and 24 holes. Okay, we're not concerned about this. What we're concerned about is on every power supply, like I said, is standard. I want you to turn to the side where there's the lock and the nut. There's a notch right here and the lock. This typically goes into your motherboard, but we're not going to do that. In every power supply, everything is color coded. And I'm going to show you right quick which wires that we're going to disconnect and make it into the power supply that we need. Now, on the side of this wire, what I explained to you, it has to be the side with the lock or the notch on the side. Look at it. Keep in mind, the other side does not have one, okay? So you want on this side. Now, from your right to left, we're going from right to left, I want you to count over the top 4 wires. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? 3 and 4, these are the 2 wires that we're going to cut. These are the wire that actually communicates to the switch, whether you plug it to the computer or whether you're connected yourself. What we're going to do is we're going to take either your cutting device and cut these 2 wires here, and everything else is fine. Do not touch nothing else. Once again, let me go over this again, because this is a very important step. This is actually the final step, but it's a very important step. You must pay attention. I'm going to say it again one more time. On the side where this wire has the big lock on it, these are the wires that you're going to be cutting. From right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4. We will be cutting 3 and 4. These wires are always guaranteed to be a black wire and a green wire. So that's another thing you understand. In any power supply you may have, I don't care what company it is, I don't care where you get it from, this is a standard electrical guiding secure way that all power supplies are made. So I wanted to really hammer that in so you understand that. One more time. From right to left. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to cut these 2 wires right now. just like that. We need these 2 wires cut. Now what we're going to do also is we're going to strip these 2 wires just enough to expose some leaves out of them. And then we just simply tie those 2 wires together. Now, assuming that you've taken and stripped the wires by basically taking your cutting device and putting it on, gently biting your insulation and just sliding the tops off. That's how basically I stripped those 2 wires. Now you take your cutting device, you can put that away now. And then basically you take these 2 wires here and simply tie them together like a cross braid. Twist them together. Twist them together like so. Sometimes I always do a little bend on top. You don't have to, but I do it for sometimes. Makes good for a really solid connection. Make sure it's all braided on. Make sure it's tight and braided. That's what you want to do. Make sure it's tight and braided. Now that you tied, check 1, 2, try it again. Now that you tie both wires together and you got a nice braid, I want you to take one of your electrical twisted caps and I want you to put the wire inside and twist it. Twist it all the way down until it connects with both of the wires at the bottom here. So you want it to be twisted on, twist it, it gets tight. So twist it as far as it goes down. Once you twist it on, that's basically the connection right there. So now, the only thing we want to do now is we want to take and probably, well, definitely put some electrical tape around here just to secure those. Even though these 2 wires that you cut earlier are exposed, there's no danger. But just for a safe side, you can electrical tape all of this too. I want you to tape all this up and then tape this up. And then basically you're done. Only thing after this step is that you have to just basically plug in the power line and then you're ready to go. One more thing also at this point, if you prefer to solder these 2 wires together before you put the cap on, that's an excellent choice as well. It definitely guarantees a secure connection, but it isn't exactly necessary though. But if you're into your soldering, you can also solder the wires together prior to putting the electrical cap on. But you don't, it's not necessarily, so you can just simply keep it this way and then we can tape it and lock this up. And then once we tape this and then we position it anywhere inside the case so it'd be out of the way, then the next step is to basically put the power cord on, turn the switch on, and you can start burning. Okay, now that you see that I took and put a couple rows of electrical tape around the wire that I cut, whatever. I also left this exposed just so you can see that I did tape the main wire, and now we can put some tape around this part. Once again, securing that, you twist this onto the 2 wires that you spliced. I want to add that when you twist it on, turn it clockwise, it goes on pretty quick and pretty much more secure that way. So the only thing basically to do is just tape this and we are technically done. Once we tape this, we can go ahead and apply power to the unit and then we can start burning. Okay, now you see that I taped the wire together. Give it a real good little, put some love into it. Make sure the tape is tight. Okay, now once you tape the wire together with electrical tape, make sure that it's securely tight around the whole wire, everything. Make sure it's completely covered. There's no real danger if you kind of miss a spot, but I would recommend you put a few laps around it. And then once you're done with that, just simply find any convenient place, tuck the wire, just sit it there. Usually the wire tension from the other wires will hold it in place. Just sit it there and you're good. Now what we have to do now is apply the hot wire and we're good to go. Okay, now we're about to plug the cord up to the back of the machine. Now, I know everyone aren't idiots and anything though, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know the difference between an off and on switch. So, before you plug the wire up, make sure your switch is toggled towards the O, which means open circuit, which means that the power is off. When you switch the switch down with the line straight down, and it's depressed in that area, that means that obviously the power is on. You'd be surprised so many professionals that I've known and met in life that really don't know this. But with the switch in the O or off position, now I want you to go ahead and connect the wire. All right, we're basically done. So let's get to the front of the machine and let's see how we did. Okay, troopers, with all the confidence in the world, you can go ahead and hit the switch from the back of your power supply. And you can hear the machine starting up, booting up, and go around the front. You see that it's coming on. Nothing, no sparks, anything jumping out like that, which it shouldn't be. As you can see, the power supply itself comes with a fan, so that's cool in itself, so it's running. Once that's on, that means you have a successful connection with the wires that we spliced. Now, in some units, according to the manual of the controller card, it automatically ejects all the drives out in standby mode, but you can do it yourself with the tester. You can also set your drives up to open up automatically, and that's through the software within the card, whatever. There's a manual that comes with the card that tells you to either have it in standby mode or to have it in manual. And the manual will go a little bit more in depth with that. But basically, you're done. It's running and it's working, and only thing left for you now to do is close your unit up and start burning. Okay, it's only fitting now at this point to test the unit, and I'm going to do a few copies. The top drawer up here is your master. Okay, and assuming that you've already mixed and mastered a CD in your studio, or a video, or even burnt a copy of your software, whatever, you take that disc and you put that in the top one. Okay. You load it in, and then the rest of your drives, depending on how many copies you need. I'm only going to do 2 copies here. Even though this unit is built to do 7 at a time, I'm going to open up my 2 drives and simply load in my copies and then inject those back into the unit. Okay, the LED is going to signify that the copies are good. If they go out, no problem, that means the discs are clear and free. Now, on some of the units, you can have this set up according to your manual. You can have it set up where if you automatically put the disc in, the machine, it's like a no-touch situation where it do it automatically. In my case, I kept it manual. So on the unit, you're going to notice the screen, it says that there's 2 discs that's ready to be burnt. It also tells you how much memory is used on your source drive, which is 433 megabytes. Now, once you're ready to burn whatever, in either case, I can go ahead and push the OK button on the unit, and the burn will start. It will read the source drive, and then it will pick up the drive and start burning the data directly to the CDs. And there we go. We have just started our first burning session. Once this is done, the machine will automatically kick out the copies, and you'll have the option to insert more blank discs to keep going on, or you can end your session. Usually this takes about maybe anywhere between, depending on your data, a minute to 5 minutes for a CD, and for video, depending on your data, can run anywhere between 2 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on the size of your disc and the size of the data that you're burning. But once again, as you see, we are definitely underway and we are rolling. All right, as you see now, the unit has been done copying, your copies just came out, you still have your master and the master drive, so now you have a ton of options. You can continue burning more, or you can simply take everything out and you're done. That's a good copy, and you can take your copies out like so, and then you're done. Now, I recommend using printable CDs because on printable CDs, as opposed to the regular things you might buy at Staples where you simply take a Sharpie, it just doesn't look too professional. With printable CDs, you can actually print real graphics on there that you even do through Photoshop and certain CD labeling software. I use Epson CD labeling software because I use Epson Artisan 50 printable CD printers, and that's another investment. That's another tutorial though. But if you have any immediate questions about using printable CDs versus the regular CDs or regular DVDs, I have no problem. Hit me up. I'll let you know what to do. But as you can see, the copies are made, and you're good to go. All right, as a final and bonus step, it isn't necessary, but I do highly recommend it, and that is installing fans within your case. If you have a case, which most cases have, they have different slots where you can add fans into it. I have two at the top here. I made this unit with 5 extra fans. The good thing about fans, it definitely keeps your unit cool and running efficient without overheating, which you don't really have a lot to overheat because it isn't like we put in a graphics card in here though. But this still, if you're someplace where it's either humid or hot or not properly ventilated, installing these fans is very, very important, and I would also recommend it. But it isn't necessary, but I highly recommend it. So most cases, the fans come with IDE connectors. Okay. In this case, they're interlockable, whatever like that. All you have to do is on your power supply, which guaranteed you'll have a lot of these spare IDE cables that's not being used. Simply mount your fans and just simply connect them. And you can do this with any fan that you may have. Once again, I highly recommend it. Also, please do this with the main cord unplugged. Okay. Now that the fans are installed, whatever. This is once again, like I said, it's a bonus feature. You can. I'm going to reapply the AC cord back into the unit. Okay, and then I can turn it back on. And as you can see, my fans came on. And it's good because it creates a turbine, it sucks out dust, and it also sucks in cool air. And apply as many fans you want. It doesn't want to hurt you, whatever like that. And then, like I said, in this unit, I'm going to put in 5 fans. And that's it. You are done. Close your unit up and get to burning. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me here on Show Your Home Studio. Or you can visit my personal Facebook page. That's Glenn Bruce. Make sure it's the one from Glenn Bruce from Philadelphia. And thank you so much. I hope this is very helpful for you. And once again, you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Take care. Make that money. Bye. Okay guys, here's one last look of my unit closed. It's a steel case. All the units are in. You see my fans are working. Nice and cool. Got the fans on the top is working as well. And I'm ready to go. Also advise you, when you finally build your unit, keep it in a well ventilated place. If you're a DJ, you have it on stage with you, keep it like somewhere it's not touching the rest of the equipment and no one's going to bump into it, things like that. If you're in the studio, of course, treat it like a regular computer. Set it somewhere where you have access to it, but your clients don't, and no one can bump into it or whatever like that. Keep it free of all obstructions, especially around the fan areas. All right. You look good to go. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope this tutorial will help you out in making such a great machine, and hopefully it adds more income to your studio. And as I mentioned before, I would like you to step over to my other Facebook page on the movie I'm working on called Blind Fear, and just check out the site and see what's going on and give it a like or two. Thank you.